Senator Monnes Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. We shortly are going to be memorializing Ross Morgan, who passed away on August 30th, but he has a whole tribe of people here, and I would like courtesies extended to them. Sitting at your desk, Senator Metzger, is Ted and Christy Morgan, son and wife of him. Sitting at President Courtney's desk is Janine Morgan and his daughter, and then sitting at my desk is Carrie Peets, who's a great niece, and another great niece, Bella Peets, is out there, 15 months old, running around. And also there is Mike and Cindy Yoakum, Penny and Dan Volker, Pam, Marcia and Jim Curtis, Don Holtzheimer and June Swan, and they're all on the side aisle. So would you please extend courtesies to this wonderful family and friends of Ross Morgan.
Thank you, Senator, to the Morgan family and all your friends and relatives. Thanks for coming today, and we'll look forward to the resolution coming forward. Monnes Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I want you to know about Ross Morgan, who we are memorializing.
Senator, I think we need a motion before we can make any discussion.
I move that we adopt, if Judy wants to give me the language, I will do it. Okay, I move that consideration of SCR 20 be taken from its place on today's third reading calendar and be made a special order of business immediately.
Okay, Senator Monnes Anderson has moved that SCR 20 be taken from its place on today's third reading calendar and made a special order of business immediately. To your motion.
The deceased Ross Morgan had a number of people here to help us memorialize him, and we would like to have them not have to endure the entire floor session.
Is there further discussion on the motion? The question is on taking SCR 20 from today's third reading calendar and placing it as a special order of business immediately. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion has carried. The clerk will read the resolution.
SCR 20, Memoriam Ross H. Morgan, 1922-2009.
Chair recognizes Senator Monnes Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, everyone should know Ross Morgan. He served in the legislature from 1961 to 1969, and he was a glib, feisty man who was devoted to Gresham. Plus, he was a Democrat, and he was so excited when I was elected because we had had Republicans hold that seat for a number of years, and that's how I really got to know Ross Morgan. In fact, he actually wanted me to be a member of his Toastmasters group so I could become a better speaker. He served in the House and Senate from 61 to 69, and he was instrumental in getting the seatbelt law passed, and he was also instrumental in getting Mount Hood community funding for Mount Hood Community College. At the time they had, and this was in the 60s, they had a moratorium on funds, yet he was chair of the Ways and Means, and we know the power of the Ways and Means chair, and he was able to get money for the establishment of Mount Hood Community College. And he was also then the community college's very first patron. He loved the legislature, and he loved the relationships that developed here. Besides being a great public servant, he once said, you know, there's nothing worse than being a retired politician. He said, nobody really cares what you do after we leave. And this is why we're having the memorial, because he was very instrumental in doing some very important things back in the 60s. He served also our country in World War II as a naval radio man who flew with a torpedo squadron hunting German submarines over the North Atlantic. They lost a third of their torpedo squadron, and the North Atlantic in the winter was really enemy enough. The pitching of the decks of the carriers, bouncing on the black vastness of the cold ocean, were really fatal to a number of veterans, who, especially those flying in, who did just a slight miscalculation. Ross Morgan helped to find their way in that blackness, and his crew lived to tell the story, crediting him with saving their lives. In 2004, he actually prepared to go to Washington, D.C. for the dedication of the World War II memorial and said he never got over being afraid. He felt so damn lucky to get home to talk about it. He was born the 10th of 11 children, and he was so glad that his mother didn't practice birth control. He says, I wouldn't have had this fantastic life without that. His family came to Oregon from Kansas to pick fruit after they lost their farm in 1931. He served on the Gresham Council, and after his legislative career, he ran the Employment Division. And what was so unique about the Employment Division, this was starting in the 70s, we actually have Employment Division people here. He was extremely instrumental in establishing the framework in the Employment Division. We all know the 8 tax schedules that the Employment Division has. It was actually established in 1975 when he was heading that department. And that is the main reason why we have a solvent trust fund. We're only one of 2 states in the entire nation that has a solvent trust fund for our unemployment. And he was there to establish that in the 70s. After he served the employment service agencies, he later became a law judge and was named to the State Appeals Board by Governor Vic Atiyeh. And he is survived by his children, Janine Morgan, daughter sitting here, Ted sitting at Senator Metzger's desk, who lives in Gresham. Janine lives in Gresham, Ted lives in Troutdale, and Jeff Morgan, who lives in California. He adored cats. His laugh was always ready. He liked to drink. He could recite poetry. He loved MASH. And I think he was a wonderful, wonderful man who did so much for our community. And I would be very honored if this body would adopt this resolution and then have it presented to his children, Ted, Janine, and Jeff. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Is there further discussion? If not, the question now arises upon third reading and final adoption of SCR 20. Those who are of the opinion that the resolution should be adopted will answer aye as their names are called. Those opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Dingfelder. Edwards. Ferrioli. George. Gerard. Haas. Johnson. Cruz. Metzger.
Aye.
Monnes Anderson. Monroe. Morissette. Morse. Nelson. Brzezinski. Rosenbaum. Schrader. Shields. Starr. Telfer. Berger. Whitsett. Winters. Atkinson. Bates. Bonamici. Boquist. Burdick. Devlin. President Courtney. 30 ayes.
SCR 20, having received a constitutional majority, is declared adopted.